Did you know that humans are getting shorter? What does bacon and eggs have to do with the CIA successfully overthrowing the government of Guatemala? Which country has a life expectancy of only 14 years old? Learn the stories behind these and so much more in my new book, Facts That Aren't True. Don't forget about my other book, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions. Link in the description.
Right, so it has functions, countless functions, numerous, in other words, and that's because it's designed.
Right, so
It's
instead of begging the
functional information, algorithms, and linguistics.
right, so there is basically a almost limitless number of configurations that any form of matter can take. You take atoms or whatever, they can form innumerable different compounds. So we can just take your... No, that's not false. What are you talking about?
Sure it is.
Really?
Look, lots of molecules won't even interact with each other, so that statement is false.
Great. That's not what I said. I said it can form...
Well, then it's not infinite, then.
I didn't say infinite. When did I say infinite?
So there are limitations.
There are limitations to DNA. We go.
But information, algorithms, and linguistics don't arise by natural processes.
There's no linguistics in DNA.
There's every scientific journal about genetics publishes that it does.
They don't. Go ahead and give us the title of one. Go ahead.
Sure, I just already posted one in the text.
I feel like that's more an analogy to say something.
Called the linguistics of DNA, sentences, grammar, phonetics, and semantics. New York Academy of Sciences.
Okay, give us another one because you said all of them do this.
There's numerous examples.
You said they all do
this. Did you not know that DNA is linguistic?
I think that's a metaphor. I don't think
it isn't. So you said all journals. Sure. You said every single article does this.
I said all genetics journals have papers published about genetic linguistics. Right. There's one. There's a study by the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, which discovered that the grammar of the genetic linguistics is more complex than that of any spoken human language.
Look, DNA is language, but first, Neff, just define what you mean by language here, please.
What I have to define language for you to talk about language?
Yeah.
You need a definition.
Yeah, whether or not
there's a dictionary.
For language.
There's a dictionary for you.
So you don't know what language is, and you're asserting that DNA is language.
I don't know.
Just like you don't even know if aliens exist.
Somebody else
claim they
don't exist. For a definition of language.
Dude, leave him alone. Nephilim doesn't know what happened 10 minutes ago. Leave him alone.
So, right, so you guys are too busy talking over. You've gone into I need a tissue and a lollipop mode again.
See, look, there he is.
Somebody else is
okay, Boomer.
Definition of language.
No, don't call him Boomer. That's it's not his fault that he's senile. It's not his fault. He didn't choose that. God did that to him. I'm joking.
Oh yeah, I mean you should know by now. If you're going to argue that evolution,
you made a claim about what DNA is,
then you should know. You should have already known.
You can
DNA is linguistic.
But you're going to need to tell us what you mean by the
term. You cannot know that.
No, don't.
A creationist to tell you that.
Leave him alone. Granddad, take your pills. Yeah, take your pills. The war's over. The war's over.
Nephilim, if you don't mind me just saying one thing. Initially,
I don't know. I was saying something, and everybody likes to talk over me because they need a lot of.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I understand. Yeah. Basically, all I wanted was. Yeah, all I wanted to say is because initially you said I said Agnostic One was the smartest person I've seen debate about the creation or creation in general or gods, and then you said until you've met me, but I'll tell you that's not changed so far. You haven't changed my mind so far.
I haven't done what?
Yeah, you haven't made me believe you're the smartest person.
Who cares about that meta?
Oh, I didn't say I was the smartest person. That's not what I said at all.
So, no, just tell us what you mean by language. Just tell us what you mean by language, man. Because we're going to all agree here that the genetic code is syntactical as grammar. That's just trivial. So what do you mean by language?
Well, it's a set of instructions that uses a code system.
Okay, so it's a code.
No.
Great. So it's a code.
So
yeah.
I just posted another paper in the side chat that describes the linguistics features of non-protein coding sequences in DNA.
Okay, so by language, do you just mean code? Because I didn't see any principal difference between what you said and the code.
DNA possesses phonetics, semantics, punctuation, syntax, grammar, and alphabetics.
Yes, I can read the title of that paper and parrot it too without knowing what any of it means. We're trying to figure out if you know what any of it means.
Oh, I talk about it and I don't know what it means, but you need me to help you know what it means.
So what does it mean?
Okay, he does. Well, he just said he doesn't know what it means.
Great stuff. Only atheists can do this.
I don't know.
So is it phonetics about like spoken language? Does DNA speak?
No.
Phonetics not
refers
verbal
to
language.
word sounds.
Yeah, isn't that about the actual sounds that are made? So how does DNA have phonetics?
Because how the words are expressed in a genetic sentence makes a difference in
that's semantics, like syntactical, right? How does it have phonetics?
Semantics?
What you're referring to could be attributed to either semantics or syntax,
because the symbols,
so
the A, G, C,
how
and
is
T
this related to
represent
phonetics?
Phonetics?
Yeah. Didn't you say there was phonetics in DNA?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do the word sounds come from in DNA?
Okay. So it's
is it because DNA codes for your larynx?
Let him answer.
Likening the words that are expressed in the DNA sentences to sound in the way that they're expressed modifies the meaning of the text.
That's syntax.
Oh, so you can make a metaphor out of anything. That's how this works. So it's not objective, it's just subjective. Okay.
Well, it is objectively true that it's prescriptive functional information algorithms and linguistics. Yeah.
Okay, where are the phonetics?
That's why all the scientists publish this,
Okay, you gave us this article, The Linguistics of DNA, Words, Sentences, Grammar, Phonetics, and Semantics. So this is obviously objective, so where are the phonetics in the DNA?
Why don't you examine the papers that I
Wait a minute, he doesn't even have access to the paper. This is behind a paywall.
Listen, I think that you don't need phonetics for a language. There's a more minimalist definition of language that could apply to DNA, but that's just going to be trivial once we figure out what that means. But it doesn't sound like Meph even understands.
Sign language has no phonetics, but it does have grammar.
That's the really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the bottom line, is that these properties, they can't come from just unmindless.
Yeah, they came from aliens. We went over this earlier. No, it actually is possible because aliens have technology that you simply cannot grasp.
No, aliens can't make these things able to arise from nature.
Yes, they absolutely can. They have the technology to do so.
No technology can do that.
And how do you know that?
Because
how do you know
chemistry cannot produce it.
How do you? Well, chemistry does produce it.
If somebody is using technology to cause it to be, then you're talking about intelligent design, not chemistry.
How do cells copy their DNA?
Chemistry cannot do it.
How do cells copy their DNA?
With complex machinery.
How do cells copy their DNA?
With complex machinery.
And what does that complex machinery do?
Copies DNA.
So the answer is chemistry, so your earlier statement is false.
No, copying is not the same thing as linguistics, prescriptive functional information, or algorithm.
No, you said the DNA can't come from chemistry, but that's exactly how DNA operates.
No, the copying, it already has to exist before it's copied, Billy.
The what?
Say
that again. The what?
It can't be copied unless it already exists.
Sure. So the way it's copied is bit by bit, literally piece by piece. So piece by piece through chemistry is where DNA would have come from in the first place.
No, that's the copy process.
Right.
Right. So you have to have it first, copy it. And the information is how the letters in the DNA are arranged that prescribes the information, expresses the instructions and that can't arise by undirected chemistry.
Do you think that books get copied?
The machine that copied them was designed.
Yeah, so the question is, do you think that books get copied?
That's not how books come into being, though.
So the question is, do you think that books get copied?
Yes, but that's not how books come into being.
Right, and so DNA doesn't come into being by being copied, but does an eternal book have to always exist or something like that? Or can
DNA is eternal?
No. Okay, so you're so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable. So the way DNA comes...
Actually, I have an IQ. It's very high.
I doubt it. I don't think you could spell IQ.
Mensa says so.
So, Mensa. So just because where DNA comes from in the first place isn't through copying doesn't mean that DNA cannot arise through physical chemistry. And because DNA is a molecule, that's how molecules undergo change. Atoms and molecules undergo change through chemistry. Everything tracks here.
No. Copying is not the cause of the origin of the molecule.
I literally just said that.
The molecules that make up DNA are arranged so that they represent information that is complexly specified, prescriptive, and functional. Okay? The information
you have a lot. Humans have multiple. Humans have tons of non-functioning DNA.
Copying something that's not information doesn't make information; just makes garble. See,
right? So and we have non-functional DNA in us.
In fact,
so we're not designed.
It's not even plausible that the DNA molecule could arise naturally, whether it had information or not, because the sugar backbone, the sugar ribose molecule that's the backbone of DNA, is produced in nature in such infinitesimal quantities that it would rot away long before anything took a hold of it, evolved, that could be alongside it, that would be necessary to maintain it and keep it going or duplicate it. That system necessary to keep the ribose that came into being naturally, which happens in nature in the tiniest quantities, right, is going to rot away long before anything evolves.
An argument from ignorance isn't evidence, and it's not a good argument.
That's because everything falls apart in nature. Biological molecules degrade rapidly. That's why when somebody dies and they find their body in the woods.
Okay, I can't stand you just rambling about a billion things for a million years. So you said that, I'll just cut to the point. Humans have non-functioning DNA sequences in them. You said that DNA if it's produced by an intelligent designer, then there you go.
We don't know that there's any DNA that's non-functional. There's DNA that we don't know the function of, but we don't know that there's DNA that has...
No, literally false. Humans have the gene for vitamin C, but it's mutated and doesn't work anymore. And there are other examples of that.
I have to forget about you if you keep doing it.
I don't care.
Okay, so well then I'll just talk to other people. So the truth,
human.
Why don't you answer the question?
Human DNA has non-functioning sequences in it.
We don't know that there's any DNA that doesn't have function. And
of course we do.
Yes, we absolutely do know that. For example, the gene to make vitamin C.
DNA is at the very minimum is structural. Every part of the DNA molecule.
You realize you were blocked.
So, Nephilim, you're just going to keep getting muted until you deal with the reality here. Humans have non-functional sequences of DNA in their genome.
Yeah. So here's the thing. When I try to say something that takes me about 15 seconds.
Yeah, you're not going to get that opportunity. I don't really care. So I just need an acknowledgement by you that humans have non-coding. I don't care.
I spoke to him last time about this, and then he accepted that most of the DNA is transcribed at a very, very low rate. When I adduced this evidence to him, he said that, well, the reason for that is because these cell types just aren't active. These are all cell types or sequences that are involved in embryogenesis or something like that. I would just ask him for the evidence for that claim. That's how he ad hocs out of it.
I mean, a quick Google search, because I'd never heard of that before, but I was, just doing a quick Google search while you were talking about it, and it immediately pulls up several documentations about junk DNA, is what it's called.
Well, no, because he's going to say like junk DNA is just DNA we haven't found the function for yet, and a lot of DNA we said was junk we know today isn't. But no, this is very different. We know that we have genes for things that have been mutated to the point where they are non-functional, such as...
Yeah, that's what it says here. It says, yes, humans have non-functional DNA sequences, also known as junk DNA. This DNA is made up of leftover evolutionary material, discarded genes, and viruses that are not relevant to human evolution.
Look, what they want to say is that, like, over the years, since like the 2000s, since we've been doing these GWAS studies, we found more and more function than previously thought on non-functional regions. So they try to make this inductive case, but they forget that, like, we have lots of reasons to believe that, like, most of the genome, right, doesn't do much because there's spurious transcription and it's unconstrained. But they just ad hoc out of that and have no reason.